Jim Klauck here on the Beach Money Podcast. I hope everyone's having a beach money day. Hey, another great friend of Jordan Adler, more than a friend, actually, someone who does business with Jordan on a regular basis, day to day, month to month, year to year, is Jim Packard. Hey, Jim, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. And yourself, Jim?
I am living the dream. Thank you so much for asking. It's so great to have someone who's so close to Jordan. I'm friends with Jordan, but you've known Jordan for a couple of decades. Why don't you quickly tell me about how you met Jordan and what you guys do together?
Well, we're both in the same network marketing company called Send Out Cards. Been doing that now for almost 20 years together. How I met Jordan, I really should back up a little bit and tell you how I got into network marketing, if I may.
Absolutely.
And I should have known that it was in the cards from early on because in the fourth grade, they had a contest where the fourth and fifth graders got to sell greeting cards as a Christmas project. Right? I sold those greeting cards. I came in first. Actually, I got to pick out any gift that I wanted. I picked out a white pearl handled knife with a leather case. Now, can you imagine giving a kid a knife today? Right?
Yeah,
So
back in the day, we all walked around with a bow and arrow, a knife, and a BB gun. It's not the same anymore.
Absolutely. And so I remember getting on the bus and Mr. Nutting, I cut my finger on the bus on the ride home. Mr. Nutting took my knife and gave me his handkerchief, and that's the last I saw of that knife. And also when I was in college, I went to the University of Maine. In fact, I actually graduated with Stephen King. So that's my claim to fame. But while I was away in college, my wife was in high school and she sent me a greeting card every single day. Now she tells the story, they were only 35 cents back then, but still I received one every single day. And by the way, we've been married 54 years now, that same lady. So, but it's interesting. When I graduated from the University of Maine, I worked in a large retail store out of Hartford, Connecticut called G. Fox and Company. And I remember they had a contest. I was in the executive training squad, studying to be a buyer for the company. And they had 5,000 people in the store. So it's a legitimate store. And they had a contest. And the person that got the highest percentage over sales won a trip to Bermuda. Well, I won that trip, right? I get home from the trip and there's a letter in the mail. And in the letter, it says, "Dear sir," or whatever it said, "Your name has come to our attention as the type of person that we believe possesses the qualities that we're looking for. We'd love to have you and your lovely wife join us at the downtown Holiday Inn in Hartford, Connecticut." So I said, yes, somebody found out that I had won the contest. All right. So they want to interview me.
Yeah.
So I went down to their hotel, and little did I know, it was a network marketing meeting. And we were invited to a network marketing meeting. We bought the dream that night. Right? And by the way, that dream back in 1971 was $3,200. So it was a big dream that we bought.
Oh my.
Now, how the bank even gave me $3,200 when I was only making $7,016 is beyond me. But that's what they gave me. I later found out that particular letter was sent out to 1,000 people. And Sherry and I were the only ones to respond. So we got into network marketing, and I would say it's the best $3,200 I ever spent. Now, the company got shut down after 2 or 3 years for front end loading, but it was the best money I spent because it gave me the confidence to start my own company, which is what I did. I started my own photocopier company selling copiers and faxes. And it really gave me the confidence because I started reading books like Think and Grow Rich and what you believe you can achieve. And if you think you can, I think you can't, you're right either way. So it gave me the confidence to start my own business, which is what I had for, 25 years. So before I sold it.
Yeah. That's a great story. Fox and Company. So I went to the University of Hartford. Very,
Oh, okay.
very familiar with your neck of the woods. Maine, I love Maine. I'm from the Northeast myself originally, but I studied marketing with a minor in communication and worked at the University of Hartford's radio station from 84 to
Interesting.
88. So a little behind you, but very familiar with the Hartford area. And that, it's really interesting, Jim, I have to say, and I'm sure you can relate to this. As we get older, we tend to have more in common with many people. I can go almost anywhere and talk to someone about something and say, "Oh, I've been there. Oh, I know someone who does that." And it ends up being a small world. Have any interesting stories about Stephen King we need to know about?
He was really strange, even back in college. I mean, he wrote an article for the campus newspaper, and he was strange, but he's a great Boston Red Sox fan, so he's okay. But anyway, it was interesting. I sold the business. I started the copier business, and I sold it, and I moved to Arizona, and I realized that I didn't play golf well enough that I even wanted to play every single day. So I was looking for a business to start. And I remember when I had my copier business, I did some very unique things when I owned the business. One of the things we did is that we sent greeting cards,
Mm-hmm.
all right, to the copiers and to the faxes. So you're a business owner. All of a sudden in the mail, you get a birthday card and it says, "Happy birthday. You're 3 years old today." We send it to the copier. We send it to the fax. And I always remembered what a great reaction we got from the client because of that. So when I moved to Arizona, I said, I'm just going to start a little business selling greeting cards. So I teamed up with a graphic artist. I found a very talented person. We started a business and we started selling greeting cards. Now, it's a tough business to be in because you have the design, the creativity, the order processing, the warehousing, the payment of stuff. But it was really interesting. I was doing that, and I've always been a goal-oriented person. In fact, the only gift I've ever asked for my kids for Christmas since they were in junior high school were their goals in writing. And my kids have been writing their goals down since they were been in junior high school. And they did it all the way from junior high school, and college. And I remember sitting in my office one day, and I picked up one of the forms that Jeff had filled out, which is my oldest son. And on the form, he wrote down that he wished he should pray more often. Mm. And I said, what a novel idea to pray more often. So I think it was January 11th, I was reading that. So I said, well, I went to bed that night and I said, I'm laying in bed and I can look out back and see the water feature and it's obviously it's dark. And I said, God, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Because this greeting card business is pretty tough business, And we had some significant accounts. I mean, I opened up PetSmart with 900 stores. My cards were in PetSmart. We had some pretty large, notable people like Tom Hopkins, Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, all bought cards from me, my sales-oriented cards. But it's a tough business. And I said, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? And I said, do me a favor, show me a sign, show a bird coming down to the bird bath outside. Maybe I could see that, or send me a shooting star, right? Give me some indication. Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? And I didn't receive any type of notification, but I woke up that day at 4:10 in the morning and it said, send out the cards. And I'm thinking, oh, well, God wants me to send out the cards for my clients. So that next day, I went to one of my clients and I proposed, what if I just send the cards on your behalf? Because people aren't sending them on their own. And he says, that's a great idea. I'll give you 75 clients right now. You pay me $29.95 and I'll send out 5 cards. And I started doing that for people. I started sending out cards for people. All right. And that way I made sure they got out. But if anybody knows me, especially back in those days, I don't use a computer that often. I'm not very technically inclined. And it was tough. All of a sudden he gave me 75 clients and I'm sending out 5 greeting cards. And then he gives me another 25 the next month and I got to factor those in. And I'm doing this and I'm thinking, my gosh, this is tough. And about May 17th, I got a call from my son. And he said to me, Dad, he says, I'm meeting with a friend that that's promoting Jim Rohn. And you know, I'd love to have you come and meet him. Maybe we can have a booth at his event when he comes to Phoenix. I said, Jeff, that's a great idea. I could sell my greeting cards. You could sell your Everwood speed reading, which is what Jeff was selling at the time. And I went and we met this guy named Jerry Haynes. And Jerry says to me, he says, yeah, we're having this big event. You should come. He says, in fact, I've got a great person, a good friend of mine that's coming to that event by the name of Jordan Adler. He's the #1 sales rep in his company. And I go, well, I better not ask him for a booth if one of his best friends is in the business. I won't ask him for a booth. But I did get asked for Jordan's name and number. I thought maybe I could call him and get Jordan to sell for me. And the last thing that Jerry said to us as we were leaving that luncheon meeting, he says, but be careful, Jim. Jordan will try to recruit you. And I'm thinking, he's going to try to recruit me. I'm going to try to recruit him. Right? So Jordan and I met at the Starbucks on I-17 in Bell Road. And Jordan showed me how to send a card using his computer. In fact, we sent one to my wife, Sherry. I showed him my line of greeting cards, which I thought were pretty fantastic. Right? And I showed him mine. And then we had lunch. Now, I have no idea what the name of this company is. Right? I didn't pay attention or I didn't know. And he says to me, I said to him, well, what's the name of your company anyway? Is it like you're a rep for Hallmark or Blue Mountain greeting cards? And he says, no, it's called Send Out Cards. Now that hits me like a ton of bricks. I'm looking up and I say, God, is this what you meant? Is this what you meant by Send Out Cards? He later told me in that conversation that they have a very special advisory council that they're forming called the Eagle's Nest. Well, we just had a house built, and the builder gave us a sign to put over the mantle on the fireplace called the Eagle's Nest. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is another sign. All right. I'm thinking, well, I went away from that meeting. Now, little did Jordan know that morning I opened up the mail and I had a bill for $5,800 worth of envelopes. So I was sitting on that bill. All right. I'm thinking, he has a system where I can go to the computer. I can find the card I want. I can type my message and they print it, stuff it, and mail it. There's no more warehousing the cards. There's no more creating cards. I mean, I was pretty enthused, quite frankly. Well, a couple of weeks ago or a week goes by, we get the card in the mail, the one that we had sent to Sherry. She comes down the hall. She said, what a beautiful card you sent me. That night we went to the Jim Rohn event. Jordan was there. He said, and I said, Jordan, oh, by the way, sign me up for that Send Out Cards deal that you have. The rest is history. That's how I met Jordan. It was like divine intervention.
That's a great story. That's one of the best stories I've heard about Jordan and the guest I have on his program here. You know, it's interesting. I was thinking, Jim, while you were talking about when you were sending cards out to people's clients for your client, right? You were doing that process.
Yes.
And you know, it's kind of like what I do for Jordan. Jordan wants to be able to do this with you and to touch other people, and I get to play that role as well. And which is kind of nice because everyone wins in that scenario. Send out cards. I send out cards every day. I use Send Out Cards. Jordan and I work closely together. I think it is a fantastic way to not only stay in touch with people and make them feel good, but the gratitude I get by sending a card is tremendous. It's actually good for my health.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, especially in the digital world that we all live in with texts and emails. It's nice to have that personal touch right now. And it's recognized. And Send Out Cards changed their pricing formula on May 4th. They now have virtual assistants that aid the customer in creating those cards. And that's been invaluable to me. I saw that, and I mean, I've always done well with Send Out Cards. I was their runner-up distributor of the year when Jordan was the distributor of the year. The second year, I got runner-up distributor of the year again. First time they've ever given it to one person. I'm the only person that I know that's won it twice. And then the third year, I got distributor of the year. And what's really amazing, the first two people I ever sponsored, I mean, number one and number two were both my sons. And they both went on to become runner-up and distributors of the year.
That is fantastic. So it's in the family. It's obviously something you believe in. And I tell everyone about it. And in my business, I have a lot of clients that are in home service, plumbers, roofers, air conditioning companies, garage door repair and replacement companies. And I tell them, you should use this to follow up after you do the job. And then quarterly, you should be touching them somehow, because it's the right thing to do as a human, but it's also the right thing to do for your business. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. There's an old saying that business goes where it wants to, but stays where it's appreciated.
Yeah.
And that's so true.
So not only are you very successful with Send Out Cards, you're a speaker and an author. Talk a little bit about your book.
Well, yeah, my son Jeff had a meeting down in Tucson, and he calls me one day and he says, "Dad, love to have you come down to this meeting. I have a guest speaker. I think you'd enjoy him." So Sherry and I drove down, and Jeff introduces the speaker. His name was Joe Malarkey, America's worst motivational speaker. And I'm thinking, what a great name. Well, this guy got up and he spoke. And I'm thinking, my gosh, this guy is good. Where did Jeff find him? He's outstanding. He's really good. So little did I know that he was a stand-up comic for 10 years with Jerry Seinfeld and that whole group that came up together. And then for 20 years, he toured the country as Joe Malarkey, America's worst motivational speaker. He did that for 20 years, and that landed him into the Speakers Hall of Fame. And I remember going up to him afterwards and saying, his real name is George Campbell. I said, "George, if you ever need a partner, I'd love to partner with you." And he says, "Jim," he says, "I've been thinking about writing another book on," and he says, "You would be the perfect partner for me." He says, "You've had a successful business, successful marriage, successful in the network marketing arena." He said, "I'd love to partner with you." So we've partnered together. We've written 3 books, all on consistency. And the whole premise is, how can you be we touch upon the Pareto principle, where 20% of your salesmen give you 80% of your production. That how can I be a 20%er in some areas in my life and an 80%ers in other areas? And that's the premise that we took on the book. And the consistency chain is really a book about goal setting. And it's a goal setting strategy that's designed for people that have a hard time sticking to a goal. And we've written 3 books on it. And that's what, we've been speaking at different sales conventions around the country on consistency. And it seems, as Jordan tells it, he says, "Jim, when you speak from the front of the room, you speak to the first 3 rows in the audience. I speak to everybody from rows 4 through 50 in the back of the audience." And that's what we talk about. So it's been fun.
Yeah, consistency. We as human beings are flawed in many ways. One way is sticking to it. It's sticking to that workout program, that diet, the appreciating our spouse on a regular basis, whatever it is. I've said this before that after podcast number 3, 90% of all podcasts fail. That means so many people start something, and after the 3rd podcast, they no longer do it. After March, they don't go to the gym anymore. After 3 weeks, they stop their diet, whatever it is. And I think a lot of it is willpower. In network marketing, I've noticed that there are a lot of people who enter, and I think the 80-20 rule is probably prevalent as well. And in network marketing, probably 20% are carrying the weight. There's just a lot of people in there who are either not taking it seriously and moving along, and eventually they'll spin out of it. What are the numbers on that?
Well, I think it depends on who you talk to, but I think it's closer to 95.5%.
Mm.
I mean, even Jordan would tell you that 5 distributors in his entire downline gives him 80% of his volume. I mean, if you think about it, and what our book is geared to is that 95%. We have a different strategy, a different way to measure success. And if I had had that 20 years ago, my organization would have been much bigger. That's for sure. Because the 80% and the 20%, especially when you eliminate all the things that are common in both the 20 percenters and the 80 percenters, like training, we all get the same training. Ambition, we all have the same ambition. If you can eliminate all those things, what's the difference? The 20 percenters know what has to be done, okay, and they do it on a consistent basis. The 80% knows what has to be done. They just don't do it consistently. And it all bears down to that we're wired differently. Our brains are wired differently. And we touch upon that in the book. So.
You know, some say it takes 30 some odd days to make something a habit, which I kind of believe in. So, you know, if I'm going on a new diet program, exercise program, sending out cards every day program, whatever it is, I find after those 30 days, I can get in that groove. What do you think?
Yeah, we talk about habits a lot, of course, and I think it's forever. Excuse me. The first day you break it, a habit, it's over with. So it's something you have to do on a daily basis. So I don't think it's 22 days. I don't think it's 30 days. I don't think it's 60 days. I think it's a forever thing. You have to do it consistently.
Yeah,
and I know that's probably
yep.
not the answer that you're looking for,
Yep.
but it's the one I
Yep.
feel.
So I think the 30 days is you have to do it every day for 30 days before it becomes a habit. And then it's easier going to the 31st, 60th, 100th, a millionth day, if you will. And I find the people who are consistent with things get the best results. So let's talk a little bit about, let's say people's diet. Now, when you hear diet, people think, okay, I'm going to go on a program for a period of time and then go back. Well, when I think of diet, I think it's a permanent lifestyle. So diet is really what you eat. It's not a thing. It's what you eat. If your diet is, KFC chicken out of a bucket, that's your diet. And if you eat weeds, that's your diet. But I find that if I do the same thing every day, so for instance, I don't eat after 7 p.m. It's a hard rule. I don't drink alcohol anymore. Very, very rarely do I. I used to drink all the time, which disturbed my sleep. And then I don't drink and then I don't eat before 10 a.m. And there's just a lot of reasons why that works well for me. It gives my body some time to rest. And I can eat whatever I want in the other hours. And I'm in good shape, keep my weight down. I feel good. I sleep well, but I've got to do it consistently. So I can't go to bed at midnight because I go to bed at 10 too. So I stop eating at 7. I go to bed at 10, wake up around 5:30 to 6. So I get my 8 hours roughly. My body rests from eating from 7 o'clock to 10 a.m. And it sounds boring, but that routine, consistency. And I've read that our body likes consistency. Our mind likes consistency. Not all of these sporadic things like, okay, I go to bed at midnight now or I go to bed at 8 o'clock this night. And, what's also a fallacy and so forth is that when people, let's say they get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Friday to go to work. And let's say they're tired because they don't go to bed till 11 or midnight. They're like, well, I'll make up for it on the weekend, so I'll sleep until 10 or 11. The body doesn't like that. That you're not doing yourself a favor.
No.
I used to think you could kind of bank hours of sleep. It just doesn't work that way. And so it's really interesting. Everything comes down to consistency. And I think a lot of people would think my life is relatively boring because of how consistent it is. But it's not difficult for me because I've gotten into that pattern. And I see people who aren't consistent and nothing in their life is consistent and it's chaos.
How long did it take you to get into that pattern, Jim?
Maybe the 30 days, but it's easy for me. If I decide to do something, I do it.
Yeah. If you're trying to drink a glass of water, I mean, you can establish that habit in probably a week, 10 days. You drink one glass of water a night or whatever it might be. But to do something like you're doing, it probably is going to take 30 days to continue on doing it every single day.
Yeah.
Do you give yourself a break?
No, there's no break. But there's also no break from good nutrition or breathing oxygen. Now that's extreme. So suppose someone said, "Hey, why don't you stop breathing oxygen for 5 minutes?" That's a freaking bad idea. Okay. Now some people would think, "Well, come on, Jim, that's crazy extreme. Of course it's going to kill you." But when you look at the evidence and the science and if you just use logic, okay, we should all be doing certain things in our life to make our lives easier, but we don't. So here's a good example. So the alarm clock. Jim, do you use an alarm clock to wake up?
No.
Okay, I don't either. Unless I need to get up at a crazy early hour for something, and I'm not sure I'm going to wake up automatically. But many Americans use alarm clocks, especially during the week, to get up in time for the kids, for school, and for work and so forth. Alarm clocks cause heart attacks. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
So let me tell you why. And I do a lot of studying here. So I'm really big into the mind and the body lately, and trying to see at my age, Jim, when you get as old as me, at my age, you really need to tweak stuff, right? Because you and I don't have the benefit of when we were 25 years old. And so when I tell people this, it makes a lot of sense to them. So think about going back in time 5,000, 10,000 years. We weren't that different humans. We just weren't as advanced as we are today. When we were woken up like that, like an alarm clock does, there was a problem. We're about to get eaten or attacked, and our cortisol and adrenaline shoot through the roof. That's not good for us. Some say, which I believe, we were meant to wake up gradually, and the hormones in our body are supposed to bring us out of a sleep. So think about when you have to wake up and it's dark outside and it's 5 a.m. and your body really wants to wake up at 6 or 7. You're like, whoa, like what's going on? Versus just waking up and the sun's coming up and you wake up naturally. You're like, okay. And so it's wild. And so one of my problems is I study all this stuff about consistency and about mental and physical well-being and so forth. And then I see other people out there doing stuff that I stopped doing. And I'm like, stop. It's like a religion. Once you find Jesus, everyone's got to find Jesus, right? So the consistency thing, I fully understand. And I'm very regimented in my, almost everything I do. It's kind of boring, but I've never felt better. I'm in the best shape of my life for the handicap of my age, I believe.
In our book, it's a simple formula. We call it the 21 formula. Whatever you can do on your worst day, okay, put that down. Like in our book, we talk about 21. Reach out to 2 people or talk to 1 person. Everybody can reach out to 2 people a day. You can do that on LinkedIn. You can do it on Facebook. You can reach out to 2 people. Hopefully you're going to talk to 1. If you just do that every single day, you'll be successful. And you'll take those 80%ers that have given up because they're not, they can't make a list of 100 and contact them all. It's too much for them. Just reach out for today. You're setting a direction in their life, not necessarily, you're not setting a big, hairy goal of some sort.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, do me a favor. Hold up your book. The Consistency Chain for Network Marketing. That's available on Amazon, correct?
Yes. And it's an Audible too, it's really good because in the Audible we have, George speaks, I speak, and the narrator speaks too. So it's really good. I was listening to it the other day when I was going for a walk, and I get done with my walk and I'm thinking, Gosh, that's pretty good. I like that. So
Yeah.
I'd look at that. So,
Yeah. When you can say that your own work is good, it probably is, because we are our biggest critic, usually. We don't like the way we look in pictures or video, or the way we sound on the radio or in recordings. And I know this because this is what I do for a living. People say, I don't like the way I sound. Do you know what I tell people? I say, everyone else has to hear that. So what's interesting is, that when we hear ourselves in a recording, it's not what we hear, right? So I'm speaking now. I know what I sound both ways because I'm on the air all the time with radio and podcasts. But most people don't like the way they sound because it's not familiar to them, because we sound different with the skull. It resonates differently. The sound waves do. And so I like to tell people, when they say, I don't like the way I sound on recordings, I tell them, yeah, but everyone else has to hear that. And it's true. So just get over it. It is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it. It's
nope.
Isn't that wild? And it's interesting. Okay, so in the show notes, everybody, I'm going to put Jim's book link to Amazon, so you can either read it or listen to it on Audible. Is there anything that we missed here in this conversation, Jim, that you want to finish off with?
No, I think a great way to show how consistency works is that if you took a penny and you doubled it every single day for 30 days, at the end of 30 days, you would have you'd have $5 million accumulated, correct?
Yes. It's hard to believe, everybody, but it's true.
Yeah. So what if you took a penny and you doubled it every other day? How much money would you have in the bank at the end of 30 days?
A lot less.
The answer to that is $163. So I ask you, are you building a $163 business or a $5 million business? That's the effect that consistency can have on your business.
Yeah, consistency and compounding, two C words.
Yep.
They're both miracles, and wonders of the world, as they say. Who coined that phrase? Compounding is one of the wonders. Who was that?
Is that W. Clement Stone?
Was it? Okay. I think many people have taken claim to that. And but the thing about
he's older, we'll give it to him.
Okay. The thing about consistency and compounding, it's CCP. P is for the patience, okay? It's patience. Young people who are watching and listening to this, put $1 away in a bank account or some investment, invest in a business, invest in yourself. Everything's compounding. The biggest thing that I get today at my age of compounding is my knowledge and experience and my relationships. That's my biggest value. I don't have billions of dollars, but that's okay because of the compounding up here, Jim. I can actually leverage that to make money where I couldn't. So I look at some people who are 25 years old. I'm like, why can't you make the money I make? Because it's not hard for me, right? Jim, for you, you could probably make new money today in a new business like that versus a 25-year-old, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Because of your contacts and your knowledge and your education.
Sure.
And so I tell people to invest in themselves. And of course, put some money into a great business like network marketing, such as Send Out Cards. I mean, I'm part of it. I work with Jordan. You work with Jordan. I don't know what to say. It's you can't lose by helping people feel good about themselves at the mailbox. You feel good when you're sending out that card that day. Even before it gets opened, I feel good about sending out the card. And at the same time, everyone seems to make money at it. There aren't many. No, really. I've studied.
If you do it consistently.
Yes.
If you do it consistently. Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I couldn't have said it better myself.
It is consistency, time and time over and over and over again. Jim, thank you so much for joining me today here on the Beach Money Podcast. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.